What is your greatest strength? This is one of the most common interview questions, and it is the biggest shot you have to differentiate yourself from other candidates that are applying for the job. So this is a vital opportunity. If you don't do your best to answer this question in a way that's going to give you a lot of points with the interviewers, you're probably just giving your job away to another candidate. So stay tuned till the end so you know exactly how you should answer these types of questions for whatever role you are applying for. Just before we start, remember to smash that like button below because that's the first step in actually getting the job you want. Not 100% true, but that's what we do in this channel. So make sure that you do that since these videos are free. All right, so let's start at the beginning. What are some of the things that you need to keep in mind when you are answering this question? Well, the first thing is, if you're also looking for how to answer the question about what is your strongest weakness, then we have another video on that. But I will strongly suggest you finish this one before you jump off because they usually come hand in hand, and sometimes they don't even ask about your weakness, but they do always ask about an achievement or a strength that you have. So the first thing that you need to keep in mind is actually that whatever strength you give them needs to be a strength that they are looking for that role that they're trying to fulfill. So what do we mean by that? Essentially, maybe you are someone who has very good presentation skills, but perhaps you are applying for a coding job in which they don't really expect you specifically to be someone who's presenting your findings or your code to a team or something along those lines. So yeah, it could be a nice to have, but it's not really aligned with what they're looking for. So how do you know that? Well, something that you've seen in many other places and something that is greatly suggested is that you actually go and search for what is a job description, what are some of the requirements, or what are some of the preferred things that they list for the role that you are applying for. Something else that you should do is probably speak to someone or network with someone else or read forums of people who are applying in the same industry for the kinds of roles you're going for, so that you get an idea for what is it that they're looking for really, even if it's not necessarily in a job description. Because we all know that many of those job descriptions tend to be very standardized, very how do we call it? Very bare, right? Bare bone. It doesn't flesh out really what they're looking for in the back scene. It shows a couple of the things that you need to have, but it doesn't fulfill the whole picture. To give you an idea, maybe they need someone who is able to have good client relationships, and they put that in the job description. But maybe they didn't put into the job description that they also need you to be a likable person. Maybe they might get in trouble for saying that, but that could be one of the requirements that they have that they didn't actually tell you outright. So that's something that's important to have as well. Now, as I mentioned, you can do that by researching on forums online. You can easily find some of the things, and usually they are things that will make sense. You'll be like, okay, if I am doing this kind of job, then I should be having these things. For example, if it's a sales role, you should be able to be the usual things that they associate with it, like being assertive, being someone who's a good listener, being someone who can create rapport with other people very quickly and easily, right? Those are things that even if they don't have on the job description, they're probably going to be looking into those things while they're interviewing you. So when you are looking for what strengths to say, right? Yeah, you can have a list of your own strengths, but you need to make sure that you are picking examples that will align with the strengths that they're looking for the role that you are applying for, right? Okay, so I hope that's clear. So how should you actually give a strength, right? Well, it's different from actually just saying like, hey, I am a very determined person, I'm very persistent, I always finish my tasks on time. Well, that's not enough. That's kind of like very general. A much better answer will be one in which you are proving or showing to them that you actually have the strength that you say you do have. A great way of doing this is by giving an example from your past about a time in which you actually showed this strength. It's better to not be too general. It's better to go specific, but you also don't want to be too long. You don't want to give like a 5-minute answer. So in that sense, let's go into an example of what will be a sample answer for a question like this. Let's say that we are applying to a consultant role in which we have to be very good at presenting, we got to be very good at doing teamwork, we got to be very good at having relationships with teammates, but also clients and superiors and all those kinds of things. Let's say that the strength, you should always pick at least 2 strengths that you can have and practice. Maybe 3, but 2 should be fine, especially for the specific role. In this case, let's say that I'm picking as our first strength the ability to present to others. Well, let's say I'm applying to a consulting role and they ask me, hey, so what is one of your greatest strengths? So one of my greatest strengths is actually my ability to communicate and present my findings to others in a way that effectively communicates what are some of the key findings that we've had from our research and what are some of the key points that we need to focus on in order to increase whatever it is, right? Like the productivity or the revenue of the company, or what are some of the key takeaways that we can actually give our clients in order to increase their bottom line or something along those lines, right? And that was a very short answer, but you want to make it a little bit more fleshed out, right? I will say something like that, and then I will say to do that. For example, it was, back in my work, or for example, in my work as an economist, let's say, or in my work as a banker at a commercial bank, I was working with clients in the corporate sector. We were basically working with other companies and their credit lines, and I'm making all of this up, by the way. And usually we will have to present to them why we will offer some credit line packages to them and why they were more attractive than some of the other alternatives specifically for those clients. Usually we will have to do a very customized work, and we couldn't be too generic. We always had to be able to communicate very effectively to them why we had to be their choice. And often, because of my ability to present the skills correctly and my ability to work well with my team, we were often able to earn business at a rate of 3% above the average, or something along those lines, right? Again, I made it a bit long because I'm making it up as I go, but that's giving you an example of, okay, strength is presenting. The example is in my work history, I've often done this with these results, right? So that's gonna be, if you do it picking a strength that they need, that's good for their job, that's good for the role they're trying to fulfill, and you go in and you give a tangible example in which you're showing how you've actually done that, and that's something that they can corroborate if they call you references, then that's going to be considerably more powerful, more impactful, and going to take you a lot further into the actual interview and a lot further into actually getting an offer than just giving a strength that has nothing to do with the role, or giving a strength that's good, like, yeah, I'm very good at what I do. Like, it's too generic. It's like, you're not telling me anything, you're not getting any points. It's like, so that's something that's important to keep in mind. You gotta be specific, you gotta show instead of tell, in other words, give examples from your past in which you've actually shown those things that can be corroborated even better, and keep it short. Don't go too long at it. So what are some of the things that you should also keep in mind when doing this? Well, essentially, as I mentioned before, you want to have at least 2, because usually they ask strengths like, give me 1 or 2 or 3 strengths. And you want to have those examples ready. And you should prepare them beforehand for each specific role that you're going for, because each company, even if they're in the same industry, may have their own little differences that you want to account for, especially in the way they put their job description or the type of work that they do, which could vary depending on the role as well. So having said that, what are some of the other things you need to keep in mind? Like I keep saying this and I'll say it again. You want to come off as someone who is talking in a confident fashion. You want to practice these examples. You have to craft, first you got to think about what are the strengths that I have that I can show proof of or give examples of that align with this particular role. And then you want to pick those 2 or 3 and you want to craft a response that you feel is good and then practice that response. Again, you don't want to come off as memorization, like you memorize the whole thing. What you do want to do is come off confidently, and that's something that's going to happen if you've done it so many times that it comes naturally to you just to say the first part of the story, the second part of the story, the third part of the story in order without forgetting anything and in a way that comes off quite naturally for you. And that is going to be the best way to answer this question. Now, if there's anything here that wasn't very clear, you would like me to go even deeper on that, remember to comment below and let me know. And if you haven't, remember to smash that like button below and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you know whenever a new video comes out. We publish daily, and we're actually helping you with everything with regards to like, how do I get a job? How do I know what type of job is good for me, or whether or not you should start a business in the first place? So let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again.